Words can heal, words can kill. In short, words heal, words kill. Welcome again to our YouTube channel, Bold and Faithful Perspective. In one of my videos, I talked about the power of silence. Today, I'll talk about the power of words, the power of speech, the power of words. That's why I started by saying words can kill, words can heal. In simple terms, words possess power. Words possess profound power. Power that often and always shape reality and influence things in the world. That words possess power, profound power, that shape reality. Words that shape reality. Words that directly influence things in the world. They start by influencing the individual himself or herself. They influence our mental health and in some way help regulate our nervous system. And in general, words help in our general behavior. They regulate our general behavior. Either we are responding to words, all our words are expressing our inner state of being and character. Positive language and choice of positive words increase frontal lobe. They increase frontal lobe activity. And in doing so, they enhance creativity and reduce stress. That the choice of positive language, positive words, they increase our frontal lobe activity, enhancing creativity and reduction of stress. Negative words, on the other hand, can trigger cortisol release and hence fueling anxiety. Cortisol release and hence fueling anxiety. In short, what am I saying? The choice of words, the words that we choose to use in speech, the language we use, the language that we choose to use in speech, those words, they define our self-identity. Words, language, they define our self-identity. Those words, the language we use, the language we choose to use also strengthen our relationships through empathy, for example. The words we use may strengthen our relationships or weaken our relationships. Our words can easily damage relationships through destructive communication. Sometimes we kill our own relationships and our own associations, our own communities, our own families through the choice of words that we use, the choice of language that we use. Those words that you often use, the language that you choose to use, help in defining your identity. They help in self-identity definition, or they help in defining self-identity. Those words strengthen your relationships. They may kill your relationships. They may cause conflict. They may bring peace. Those choice of words, the language that you choose to use, define your self-identity, strengthen your relationships through empathy, or weaken or kill your relationship through destructive language or communication. Positive language encourage self-compassion. Positive language, positive words encourage self-compassion. While negative language or negative words has the power to create stress and anxiety. By the way, have you ever thought about your vocabulary? Have you ever thought about the vocabulary that you use? Have you ever thought about the choice of words that you usually choose to use in communicating, in conversations, in discussions, in your responses, in your answers? Have you ever thought about the choice of words, your vocabulary? What kind of words do you use? How is your vocabulary like? How is your vocabulary like? In short, our words, the choice of words, our vocabulary shape our perceived reality. Our vocabulary, the vocabulary that we use, the words that we choose to use shape our perceived reality. And those words, they help in shifting perspectives. The choice of words that you use in a conversation, while conversing, when you are talking, when you are communicating, the choice of vocabulary that you have, the choice of words that you use, they help in shaping your perceived reality. And they help in shifting perspectives, either your own perspectives and the perspectives of the listener. The listener will perceive the kind of reality you are in, will perceive the kind of perceptive that the perception that you have. What kind of perspective do you have? They will perceive it from the choice of words that you use, the choice of language that you choose to use. That's why we usually say words help us to change, to learn, and to break free from some beliefs or some perspectives. Those words we choose to use, they help us to break free from some beliefs, from some perspectives. The choice of words. Words build up a person. Words can build up people. Words can destroy others. Words can comfort. Words can frighten. Words can threaten. Words can pacify. Words can calm down. Words can bring peace. Words can motivate. Words can bring conflict. Words bring war. Words act as tools to motivate change, either positive change or negative change. Words act as tools to motivate change, positively or negatively. They can also foster conflict. They can also foster peace. Words bring war, bring battle. Words act as tools to motivate change, positively or negatively, to bring conflict, to foster conflict, or to foster peace, to build or to break, to heal or to kill, to comfort or to frighten or to threaten. Some studies have been done in the language world, in the language field. And some have come to a conclusion that positive communication can alter, can change, can bring, or can encourage healthier, compassionate human interaction. That in the study of communication and language and the choice of words, they have come to conclude, majority of the scholars have come to conclude that positive communication can alter, can change, can bring, or can encourage a more healthier, compassionate human interaction. That means words, language, the words that we use, the vocabulary that we use, the kind of communication that we have, the choice of words. Positive communication can alter, change, bring, or encourage a more healthier, compassionate human interaction. Indeed, words affect our long-term and short-term being. They also affect those people around us. There are those who have toxic words. People don't want to come close to you. They want to walk away because your words are hurtful, are toxic. Some words are obscene. Some words are belligerent. What kind of vocabulary do you use in speech, in communication, in having conversation? What kind of words do you use? What kind of vocabulary do you have? Because that affect your long-term and short-term being, and also affect the people around you. If you are not sure of your words and the weight of your words, please keep silent. If you are not sure of your words, of your language, of what you're about to utter, what you're about to speak, what you're about to say, if you are not sure, please remain mute, remain silent. Because the power of the tongue has power of life and death. Scripture reminds us that the power of the tongue, the power of the tongue, can bring death or life. That's why we are told the tongue has power of life and death. Words significantly. Words. We may take it simply, but words significantly impact people. Words can heal. Words can destroy lives. Words can destroy relationships. And words can destroy communities. The power of the tongue. You can refer to Proverbs 18, verse 21, to see the power of the tongue. The power of the tongue. The tongue that has power of life and death, to build or to destroy. The tongue is a small force, can be likened to a spark or a rudder. A spark that can yield massive influence. Words can yield massive influence. The letter of James, chapter 3, verse 5 to 6. James 3, 5 to 6. Indeed, the wise use of words can bring positive, constructive, and fruitful encounter. The wise use of words can bring positive, constructive, fruitful encounter with people, while reckless speech causes division, pain, and destruction. They destroy. That reckless speech causes division, causes pain, and destruction. Words are a force for good or for evil. Words are a force for good or for evil. It is you to make a choice. Your words to bring good or to bring evil. Words reveal a person's inner spiritual state or character. Words, the choice of words, reveal a person's inner spiritual state or character. For we know from the store of goodness the tongue speaks, or from the store of evil the mouth proclaims. So the words you use, the choice of words, the choice of language, reveal your spiritual inner state or character. For from the store of goodness the tongue speaks, from the store of evil the mouth proclaims. The tongue can be a restless evil in society. This restless evil requires relentless control. How do you do that? How do you ensure that you have relentless control of the tongue? By being mindful and thoughtful in the choice of words. By being mindful and thoughtful in the choice of words. You choose words either to bless, to encourage, and to speak truth in love, and very many other good things. Words to bless, to encourage, to speak truth in love. You can also be in control of the tongue by being slow to speak and avoid conflict. Be slow to speak, slow to respond. Be slow to contribute. Be slow to jump into a conversation. Take time to reflect and think about your words that you are about to speak. Take a moment and think about the words you are about to use, the vocabulary you are about to engage with in a conversation. Be mindful and thoughtful of the kind of speech you are about to make. Have an intent in your speech to encourage, to pass wisdom, to offer hope, to bring peace, to build up somebody or someone, rather than engaging in gossip, slander, lying, and stoking conflict or destroying situation or somebody. That have an intent, that whenever you speak, your intent should be to encourage, to pass wisdom, to offer hope, to bring peace, to build up someone or somebody, rather than just to engage in a conversation that can be likened to gossip, slander, lying, starting conflict, destroying somebody or the situation. You must not be the one who brings division, suspicion, fear, but your words should be intended for encouragement, passing on wisdom, bringing hope, bring about peace, building up the community, building up somebody, rather than destroying or lying or bringing conflict. The questions that we may often ask ourselves before we enter into a conversation or before we speak, we may have a sample of questions that we may ask ourselves. One can ask himself or herself so many questions, but a sample of the questions we may need to ask ourselves include, for example, must I speak? Must I reply? Is it necessary for me to speak now? And is what I'm about to say necessary or important? If it's not necessary and if it's not important, you don't need to speak. You don't need to talk about it. You have maybe to ask yourself, of what use is my speaking? Of what value is it? Am I adding value into the conversation? If my speech does not add value into a conversation, there's no need to say anything. Or somebody comes and say, I have nothing much to say because everybody, or those who have spoken before me, have said everything. Then what are you saying? Keep quiet. I actually have nothing to say because they have spoken everything. You better stop there. Don't continue, because you have already confirmed that what you're about to say has no value at all. It's not necessary. It's not important. It's not a must that you speak. Just stop there. Know the value of your speech. Know the necessity of your speech. Know the importance of your speech. You can ask yourself very many questions that will help you, or various questions that may help you to be in control of your tongue, because the power of words, the power of the tongue, is either to heal or to kill, to build or to destroy, to encourage or to discourage. What is the importance and necessity of your speech? What kind of words do you usually choose to use? Then the question is, why are you speaking? Or why are you responding to a question? Not every question is responded to. And if you choose to respond or you choose to speak, choose your words wisely. Be mindful of the words you choose to use. Choose to use with the intent the words that encourage, that pass wisdom, that offer hope, that bring about peace, that build up someone or situations, rather than engaging in useless conversations, slander, lying, starting conflict, or destroying situations or destroying someone. If your words add no value into a conversation, please don't engage in the conversation. Let it be. Be wise by being mute. May God bless you as you reflect on the choice of words that you use, knowing that words have power. The choice of language that you use has long-term influence and short-term influence. Therefore, remember, words heal, words kill. May God bless you and enjoy yourself.